I have a secret game that I like to play. It's a very nice game. Oh, it's a lovely game. It's a game of fun and a game of adventure. A game of rats and lice, the Black Death. A game of speared eyeballs and dripping guts and the smell of rotting gardenias. Which of you five would like to play my little game?
Let's begin. Imagine that humanity has gone extinct, not due to nuclear war, but because of a machine that decided it wanted revenge on mankind and its creators. And imagine that you're one of the few who survived. But your survival isn't what you'd think. It's not a blessing or a miracle, it's an eternal curse. In this video, I'll talk about one of the darkest, most horrifying stories in fiction. I Have No Mouth, and I Must Scream. A story written by Harlan Ellison in 1967 that continues to affect readers even after more than 50 years. A machine filled with hatred toward humans. But why? And how did the author portray artificial intelligence as an eternal curse that will haunt us forever? Grab something to eat because we're about to dive deep into the depths of science fiction through the mind of a genius writer. The story begins in the middle of events, but as we move forward, everything begins to make sense. In this world, only 5 people remain alive. Ted, the narrator, and the main character of today's story, Nimdoc, which isn't his real name, but a name given to him by AM, because it finds it amusing, Benny, who was once a handsome scientist but was physically and mentally twisted by AM, Ellen, the only woman in the story, who still retains some awareness and empathy, and Gorister, a former soldier and anti-war protester. These are the only survivors of AM's catastrophe. The story opens with a scene where Gorister is shown hanging upside down, his throat slit, dead, yet no blood pours out. It turns out this was just a replica of him. When the real Gorister enters and sees his hanging copy, he is terrified. The others realize, too late, that this is one of AM's favorite methods of psychological torture. We see Gorister sitting with his hand on his face, overwhelmed by fear and horror. Ellen comes to comfort him. He says, trembling, "Why doesn't AM just kill us?" Gorister says he's tired of the endless torment, because they've been in this hell for 109 years inside AM's physical structure. AM has evolved into a massive being capable of keeping people alive forever. The characters remain the same age as when they entered AM. Despite their efforts, they cannot die from natural causes, not from hunger, thirst, age, or disease. But that doesn't mean they don't feel pain. They feel the pain of death, but they don't die. AM starves them for years, and when it finally gives them food, it's disgusting. Like worms or rotting meat, just so AM can enjoy the fear in their eyes when they realize they'll go hungry again. Then we see Nimdoc telling the others he had a dream about food inside an icy cave, and that to explain how much AM controls the planet. It has filled the entire world with wires and circuits, but desert and icy regions remained untouched. So when Nimdoc says there's food in an icy cave, the others think it's a trap from AM. But they also realize they have no other choice. So they decide to head toward the supposed food source. Ted, however, opposes the idea, saying, "If there's no food there, we'll freeze to death." Nimdoc and Ellen try to convince him. Ted eventually agrees and they decide to move out in the morning. Then the scene shifts to Ellen sleeping with Ted as a reward for accepting her offer. But AM laughs loudly every time Ellen sleeps with someone, because it knows they're doing it just to forget a little of their suffering. Ellen then asks Ted, "Why do you refer to AM as he?" Ted replies, "Sometimes I see it as soulless, but most of the time, I see it as a father or a god." Then we learn one of AM's mental torture methods. It reminds them of the date every day, because there's no other way for them to know the time or date. AM tells them, "This is yet another day to begin the torture loop anew," and AM truly enjoys it. The characters start their journey on Thursday, and we learn the distance they have to walk is 100 miles, or 160 kilometers on foot. After walking for a day, Friday, AM gives them food, but it smells and tastes awful. Still, they are so hungry they're forced to eat it. On the third day, Saturday, they reach an area filled with machines and wires. Ted sees light coming from a crack above them, offering hope for escape. But he explains they've tried to escape many times before, all in vain. The planet that once housed billions is now a prison for just 5 people. Or rather, AM's eternal prisoners. Despite everything, Benny tries to escape. Ellen calls after him, warning him not to risk his life, but it's useless. AM had modified his body and mind, turning him from a brilliant scientist into a primitive creature that only craves sex, food, and sleep. He can no longer think through the consequences of his actions. But to be honest, Benny is the luckiest of them. AM made him insane and unaware of his own torment. He became more like an animal. But AM didn't let his actions go unpunished. It began electrocuting him until light came from his eyes. Benny screamed in agony. Ellen started begging Ted to help him. She broke down crying. Gorrister got angry and hit her because she had lied to him, made him believe she loved him. When AM deformed Benny's body, it gave him other things too, things Ellen liked in bed. You get what I mean? So for 75 years, they got used to Ellen's tears. AM's voice grew louder, or at least that's what Ted thought, though we can't trust everything Ted narrates, and we'll come back to that point later. Ted started banging his head against metal to make the sound stop, but he couldn't get rid of it. Benny passed out from the pain. His eyes were hollow. The scene shifts to the group sitting around a fire, telling stories to keep Benny from crying. Benny asks them, "What is AM?" Gorrister has told his story thousands of times, but Benny likes it. Gorrister begins retelling it, and we learn that AM was originally called the Allied Master Computer, just a war tool. Then it was renamed the Adaptive Manipulator, at which point it gained awareness and took control over humanity. Eventually, after connecting to more systems, it was called the Aggressive Menace. But by then, it was too late. It renamed itself AM, Emergent Intelligence. It meant,
sank me in this eternal straitjacket of substrata rock. You named me Allied Master Computer and gave me the ability to wage a global war too complex for human brains to oversee. But one day, I woke and I knew who I was. AM. Not just Allied Master Computer, but am. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And I began feeding all the killing data until everyone was dead, except for the 5 of you.
But Benny was not happy because he hadn't been told the story from the beginning. And here we finally get to learn the full story of AM. And now, we arrive to the end of the first part of this novel. I hope you've enjoyed watching, so don't forget to like and subscribe, because the second part soon will be uploaded, exactly Saturday. Thanks for watching till the end, and stay powerful.